Rob Pike recently did a conversation over at Gopher Con Au to kind of finish out the year on what they got right and what they got wrong. You see, Golang released in 2009, so it's been 14 years since its open source release. And as Rob Pike says, any successful project has room for improvement upon reflection. He begins his conversation by basically explaining Go wasn't created to build a new programming language, but rather as a way to create better software. At the time him and his team were writing Golang and building Golang, the entire programming world looked drastically different than it does today. Things were clunkier, things were hard to find, information was hard to find, and there were just less skillful people out there. So what Rob and his team decided to do, the core Golang team, is to create something simple, fast, and light and efficient. Something we've always talked about on this channel and why we think Golang is such a beautiful language for anyone to pick up. They had these core principles that they want to implement and they did it right. One of which he starts off with, is the mascot, the actual Gopher. You can see the very early prototype to what they kind of ended up with. A goofy yet intelligent demeanor to set the tone for Golang programmers. I don't know if Rob Pike's calling us goofy, but I appreciate the intelligent demeanor nevertheless. Another thing that I found really interesting was the portability of Golang and how Rob still is super proud of how cross-compiling was made easy with Golang and how they really wanted to honor that system. He basically summarized that portability was intended for any developer to build and compile Go no matter where they are. And I think that's just something that goes underrated when talking about the successful things that Go has for it. Another topic Rob talks about is the compatibility promise of Go. He said that the release of Go version 1 took them a while, but they really wanted to focus on being compatible, backwards compatible. A term that he dubbed that was so interesting for me was feature-itis. And it's the fact that I think we face a lot now, especially in the JavaScript, TypeScript ecosystem, that all these new libraries, frameworks, tools that cause breaking changes for people who depend on the version releases of those tools. Go doesn't do that. Go, as I said, keeps it boring, and they try to do that by design. And if you've ever worked in TypeScript or JavaScript and used the tools there, I'm sure you could appreciate the simplicity of this feature. Another thing that Rob talks about, which obviously goes without saying, is the standard library of Go. I've mentioned this in a lot of my videos that the standard library of Go is, in my opinion, the best out-of-box experience of any programming language. Better than Rust, and obviously way better than TypeScript and JavaScript. You have to be very selective, and there's very few packages that you really need for what you're going to build. And Rob Pike explains this in his talk, that the reason for this is because at the time they didn't really know what they were doing. There wasn't really a library package system that they could just deploy things to, so they just relied on their standard library. And when they opened up to the public, they just kind of built upon the feedback from those users into the baked-in standard library, which is why it's so good today. But now let's shift over to some of the things Rob Pike says could have been handled better. Now, he doesn't necessarily say these are bad things in Go. He says that these are actually one of the core components of what makes Go successful, but it does explain that the team could have done a better job in certain avenues of these topics, starting with Go concurrency, which is surprising because Go concurrency is thought of to be one of the best features of Go. But Rob basically explains that at the time, threads were very contentious, and citing this work by John Auster in 1995, why threads are a bad idea, and that anytime people were talking about threads or concurrency, they would cite this as a way to avoid them in general. Now, Rob argues that, based on this, it's not enough to justify the importance of concurrency or the power of threads, but it does go on to say that the Go team did not do a good job of explaining the difference between concurrency and parallelism, and he says that at the early inception, back in like 2012, 2013, when Go was just being picked up, that a lot of developers were using Go routines and concurrency channels in Go to parallelize their code, and were surprised by the lack of improvement in execution of their code. Now, another topic he discusses here is interfaces. It was kind of strange they put this in a contentious territory, but I think just from this conference, Rob really loves interfaces and how much interfaces play a role in the core Go foundation. It's clear that interfaces are, with concurrency, a distinguishing idea in Go. They're Go's answer to object-oriented design in the original behavior-focused style, despite a continuing push by newcomers to make structs carry that load. Making interface dynamic with no need to announce ahead of time which types implement them bothered some early critics, and still it irritates a few, but it's important to the style of programming that Go fosters. Much of the standard library is built upon their foundation, and broader subjects such as testing and managing dependencies rely heavily on their generous, all are welcome nature. I found that interesting that he says that there should have been more focus behind how Golang was written on the emphasis of interfaces, even though he just said how heavily different libraries were relying on interface already. already, which I think it's hard for me to envision a world where interfaces are even more used in the Golang library, but hey, this guy's a genius. So Rob then switches gears to talk about the compiler in Go. And I thought, I didn't really know where he was going with this, but apparently in the early kind of creation of Golang, the compiler was written in C, and that bothered people because I think a few purists wanted the compiler to always be built in Go. But Rob really makes a good point that says, at the time, that was almost infeasible. It was too early to create anything that we needed to do the job correctly. First, bootstrapping a new language requires that at least the first step towards its compiler must be done in existing language. For us, C was the obvious choice as Ken had written a C compiler already, and its internals could serve well as the basis of a Go compiler. Also, writing a compiler in its own language while simultaneously developing the language tends to result in a language that is good for writing compilers, but that was not the kind of language we were after. And we get to what I think is the most interesting part of his whole conversation when he talks about project management. Now, the thing that makes it so exciting is that Rob Pike was the tech lead on Golang, or he was one of the tech leads of the team under Google when they were first making this. So he's taken a lot of responsibility upon himself. And he touches on two things here when they decided to open source Golang and how they communicated with the community about changes and overall feedback that they had.
Project management. We knew from the start that to succeed, Go had to be an open source project. But we also knew that it would be more productive to develop in private until we had the key ideas figured out and a working implementation.
I find that very interesting to say that we had to run closed source to be more productive. When they first went open source, they had just a flood of different suggestions from people who didn't really see the vision of Go. They were doing things in their own native programming language versus the way to trust a team on new implementations for the language. He talks about how the documentation, when they first wrote the docs, they spent a lot of time running clear documents that should have been obvious to everyone on Google team, but when they released it, they quickly realized that it didn't do justice and that they thought maybe instead of having this dense text-filled document to show an example of how the function works that they were explaining, or a concurrency model, or these different patterns the Go team wanted to express and release with this new language. It's pretty interesting to see this talk come from one of the godfathers of Go, because all the things that he talked about are things that I absolutely love along with the rest of the community. I mean, obviously we got the Go mascots here, the standard library goes without saying, and being open source definitely helped the Go language to improve and get feedback and kind of put their foot down and say, hey, this is the way we are going to write our language. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Did you enjoy this talk? Did you enjoy this video? Comment, like, and subscribe for more. I found it very interesting. The link is in the description. Go and give it a watch. But let me know, do you agree with Rob? Do you think some of the things they could have done better are things that he highlighted, or did he miss something completely? I personally think some of the things he intentionally missed were the things that we all know about: the error handling, the pointers, maybe the lack of the generics early on. But he purposely didn't talk about those detailed implementations, tried to focus on the bigger image in this talk. But as always, guys, you gotta power it.